Greetings, my cybersecurity samurai. Back for another episode of Weekly CTI, are we? Well, I'm glad you've joined us because today it is a spicy one. We've got a lovely Microsoft vulnerability for us to take a look at today. A lot of things going on with that. Very, very interesting. Very, very dangerous as well. So it's probably going to behoove us to learn a little bit about this, get it patched up, get it fixed, throw on some mitigations, maybe even add an IoC or two on top of that heap, make ourselves a little bit safer in the end. Before we get too deep in the weeds, as you know, find that like, subscribe, and notification. Make sure all those things happen. That would be much appreciated. Leave me a comment if you would as well. Always enjoy talking with you good folks. That said, well, let's move on, shall we? Into the news. Join me here. The hacker news, that is. Microsoft warns of stealthy Outlook vulnerability exploited by, dun dun dun, Russian hackers. Yes, those Russians. Those pesky little Ruskies, they're out there and they're doing two things. They're drinking vodka and they're hacking stuff on the regular, might I add. They never give up, do they? We got a little infographic here to kind of try to help explain to us what's going on. So let's overview this, shall we? And then we'll kind of dive into the nuts and bolts of what's going on. And then we'll start looking at those mitigations and detections and things of that nature. All right. So it looks like we have an attacker-controlled email server that sends out a UNC, which is a universal naming convention, if I'm remembering that correctly, poisoned reminder. So some sort of reminder is going to the victim, I assume through an email, and then that elicits a net NTLM response or authentication event that an attacker then grabs, uses that to do an NTLM relay attack to the Exchange EWS, and then is updating the folder. Okay. I guess we're going to need words for this because that's not as informational as I'd like it to have been. But here we go. Microsoft on Friday shared guidance to help customers discover indicators of compromise associated with a recently patched Outlook vulnerability, tracked as CVE 2023-23397 with a CVSS score of, wait for it, 9.8. That's right, kids. You heard me correctly. That's 9.8. Now, if you've got your scorecard at home, you'll notice on that CVSS scoring card that's very, very up there. That's very high. Critical even, right? You remember Snagglepuss? It was a fun cartoon. I used to watch that as a kid. This critical flaw relates to a case of privilege escalation that could be exploited to steal NT-LAN manager or NTLM hashes and stage a relay attack without requiring, I can't really read that. It says without requiring, what does that say? What does that say? Of course it scrolls away. It says without requiring any user interaction. Well, that's not good. That's probably what garnered that 9.8 score. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that'd be a part of it. So, and of course, if someone gets your NTLM hash, that's not good either because you can crack it. You can obviously do things like a relay attack. We're often in a very bad area due to this thing. So let's take a look at this advisory that Microsoft put out, see what they've got to say about it. This came out as of March 14th. So today's the 25th. So that came out about 11 days ago, looks like. All right. So starts off by talking about Exchange servers. Microsoft released security updates or SUs for vulnerabilities found in Exchange Server 2013, 16, and 19. And these are the specific versions that you need to be on the lookout for. CU23 for both 13 and 19, and CU11 and 12 for 29. I'm sorry. CU23 for 2013 and 16, and CU11 and 12 for 2019. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. March 2023 SUs addressed vulnerabilities responsibly reported to Microsoft by security partners and found through Microsoft's internal processes. We are not aware of any active exploits in the wild. We'll see about that because, well, again, this is a little bit old, so maybe there are active exploits in the wild, or at least there wasn't at this point in time. These vulnerabilities affect the Exchange server. They've got a security update guide, so if you have to get into this thing, it can help you out. Awareness, Outlook client update for CVE. So it's got its own update When I say it, I mean the Microsoft Outlook client that might be installed on your Windows machines out there. I wonder if it's only for Windows. It does just say the Outlook client. So if you've got it installed on other stuff, it could be, so Mac, Linux, whatever, could be a problem there as well. There's a critical security updates for Windows. Address this. Yes, as we read. You must install the Outlook security update to address this CVE, regardless of whether your mail is hosted on Exchange Online, Exchange Server, or other platforms. Let's see here. If your mailboxes are in Exchange Online or Exchange Server, after installing the Outlook update, you can use the script we created. We will get to that, don't worry, to see if any of your users have been targeted by using this Outlook vulnerability, and so on and so forth. All right, script takes time to run. What else do we need to know? Here's some help when it comes to updates. I think there's some no known issues with the release, so that's good. And we do have a couple of like FAQs down here. Some of them might be related to you, like what's the relationship between the Exchange server and the Outlook fix? What do we do if we're in hybrid mode with Exchange Online? Is there anything we need to do? So definitely follow this advice. This advisor. So if you're running Exchange or you're using the Microsoft Outlook client, you need to be looking at this right now. Obviously, there are updates. If you have not applied these updates, this needs to be done ASA blankety blank P, right? Get it done. Let's see here. I think this is what we need, basically. Obviously, I don't want to just read all these details for you. This is kind of the overview of what's going on here. I think we're at the end of it anyway. So what does that mean for us? Okay, so if we've got those servers, we've got to do those updates. There's a couple other things we need to know about this before we kind of start diving into the technical details. A couple of things of note is that so we saw back on the Hacker News that infographic, right? And it showed this hacker or attacker-controlled email server and then this UNC poisoned reminder. So what that means is there are 3 different vectors in which an attacker could use to exploit this vulnerability. One is going to be an appointment, a note, or a task. So one of those 3 things could be used to make this thing happen. What you do is you embed a UNC path into one of these 3 items. That path really isn't for anything other than to elicit an NTLM authentication event, which, as we all like, hopefully we all know, will pass along that user's hashed credential in net NTLM v2 form. So we use Responder normally for this. So if you're doing like an internal penetration test and you're sitting on the network, one of the most fun and easy ways to grab passwords or do like pass the hash type of techniques is to use something called Responder. I think I got Responder installed. Let us see. Hello, I will blow this up. And that way we can see all this. And I think you just do Responder -- help. Yeah. And Responder, does it give it, like what's a good, let me see, man Responder. No manual answer. So basically it's kind of a man in the middle attack. So anybody that is doing NTLM v2 like hash passing, usually through LLM and R, it will kind of man in the middle of that and grab that hash. So it's a cool tool. You just find out what's ifconfig, and let me just grab this. Just kind of turn it on so you can see it. Just do sudo responder -i, give it that adapter, give it your password. Bada bing. If I type my password right, which I apparently did not. There we go. And now it's doing the thing. And if I was on a Windows network and I try to do something, it will actually grab my net NTLM v2. God, golly, you got to get all that in the right order, right? Hash displayed on the screen. I can then download that. I can make a copy of it, stick it in a file, try to pass that hash along, use an NTLM relay attack. I can crack it if it's weak. If it's a bad password, I might be able to crack it. So there you go. That's typically how we do this in the past. But now we're using Outlook to make this happen, right? Because it goes to the victim, and that's where this is going. So it uses that appointment, it uses that note, it uses those tasks to make this occur. Now that we kind of got the stage set, let's jump into the technical details and see how the heck are we using Outlook to make that net NTLM v2 hash appear automatically on my screen. Well, I'm so glad you asked. This article comes from mdsec.co.uk. I have full links to everything, by the way, are down in the description of the episode. So if you're looking, well, Daniel, where are you going? Where are these links? Right down in there. Every time, every episode, I put all the links and resources for you folks out there. All right. So it says exploiting CVE 2023. This came out March. So they had this out as of the day that Microsoft released their advisory, a proof of concept for at least that part where you grab the NTLM v2 hash. Okay. Ooh, I'm getting a little parched. I had a lot of salt for lunch, so. Lubricate. There we go. Okay, moving on. So they start talking about it and leveraging red team during red team engagements, leveraging NTLM. But here they go. This is where they get into this. So they say, while no particular details were provided, Microsoft did provide a script to audit your Exchange server for mail items that might be used to exploit this issue. Okay, it says review of the audit script revealed it is specifically looking for the PidLidReminderFileParameter property inside the mail items and offers the option to clean it if it finds it. Well, that's cool. And here's a little snippet from that script right around this area. You can see it's highlighted in that little graphic. PidLidReminderFileParameter. That is a funny name to call something, but that's what this is. Now it says, diving into what this property is, we find the following definition. And this is where it gets really interesting. And this is where you got to kind of go, okay, Russian hackers, you're total D-bags and everything for, the stealing and all the other stuff that you guys are engaged in on a regular basis. But I will give you credit. You're some smart, crafty individuals. And you find some seriously stealthy, insidious ways to pull off these exploits. Give you credit on that. You are very ingenious when it comes to creating these things and finding these problems. Diving into what the property is, and I guess if it wasn't the Russian hackers, that maybe they said it was Microsoft's security partners and stuff that discovered this. Whatever. There's some smart security people out there. Obviously, the Russian hackers are smart people. They're just bad people in a lot of ways in what they do with their skills. I wish they'd stop doing that and just start helping the world instead of hurting everybody. It's not just you out there. So diving into what this property is, we get this definition. This specifies the file name of the sound that a client should play when the reminder for that object becomes overdue. We've seen this before, right? Hopefully, if you've used Outlook before, you get a reminder goes overdue, your computer makes a sound to remind you, hey, you're not looking at the screen apparently, and you've got something you need to get done. You might want to look over here and check that out. The sound kind of grabs your attention. So that's what this is. Here's where it gets fun. The property controls what file name should be played by the Outlook client when the reminder for the mail is triggered. This, of course, is particularly interesting as it implies the property accepts a file name, which could potentially be a UNC path in order to trigger the NTLM authentication. This is the craziest part about it. Really, this is right? How did you even think to find this? I would love to know. I would love to see someone's research on this. How did you think? I wonder what's playing that file. What call is being made by Outlook to pull that file? And can I replace that file with a file of my own device? I wonder. Since further analysis of the available properties, we also note the PidLidReminder override property, which is described as follows. Specifies whether the client should respect the values of the dispidReminder playSound and dispidReminderFileParam properties. Should it do that or should it not? I'm guessing they're saying that if we override those properties to say, I want you to do X, Y, and Z, no matter what settings you have set by the user, override those things and do the thing I'm telling you to do. Here are those things I want you to do. Play this sound. From where? From this UNC path. Okay, there was nothing there. Oh, that's too bad. Thanks for the NTLM hash, though. Well, you were welcome. I'm sorry, what? Did you say NTLM? No, I didn't. It sounded like you said NTLM. I said, no, My NTM is calling me to come home. I have your NTLM patch, by the way. Right? That's what's happening. So those are the two big pieces of the information here that MDSec used to create this. And I think at the bottom of the page here, yeah, they start going into, this is the actual script that they wrote or exploit that they wrote. This is the appointment, right? Was it, appointment, note, or task that they devised that has these attributes in them. And you can see those right around this region. It says PidLidReminderFileParameter and PidLidReminderOverride. This is the highlighted section of this graphic. To create the malicious calendar appointment, so they're using an appointment, I extended the appointment class to add our required. So yeah, what are they using for this? Oh yeah, the .NET Message Kit library. So they just pulled that in because that is what you can use to generate these files if you need to, because apparently it's a little complex to do. So they just use .NET to make this happen. And then in here, we see the appointment getting built. You got appointment equals new appointment, new sender. It's giving all the information. We've got appointment.recipients, appointment.subject, .location, meeting start, meeting end, all day, body text. But right here, around the bottom region, we see appointment.PidLidReminderFileParameter equals at, quotes, UNC path. Bam! Now you've got that NTLM authentication event that's occurring. And it's just got an IP address and telling it look for the folder or file called foobar, which I'm guessing probably doesn't exist, but it doesn't matter. It's just going to play whatever sound it finds. And if that file is not a sound file, it just won't play. And you'll notice it says PidLidReminderOverride equals true, because I want to override any, like if you don't want those sounds to play, that sound is playing. Override that. Make it happen. All right, this vulnerability is particularly interesting. It will trigger the NTLM authentication to an IP address, a system outside of the trusted internet zone or trusted sites. And this occurs immediately after opening the email, irrespective of whether the user has selected the option to load remote images or not. This one is worth patching as priority, as it's incredibly easy to exploit and will no doubt be adopted by adversaries fast. Right? And then they have a demo of this occurring. I think it's only about a minute long, so let's play this real quick. And you can see that they are firing this thing off. Just kind of, they're using this, their NightHawk application. It's actually a C2 framework. Looks like they've fired everything off. It looks, all things are working. Now all they have to do is send off that Outlook appointment. Once that appointment gets sent, obviously it just popped up right there. Bada bing. Now it's just a waiting game for the hash to come through and show up right here on their screen, which they can then easily just copy. Oh, there it is. That's what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, when you get exploited by this vulnerability. Very, very nice. So there you go. That is that. NightHawk. So I thought this was an interesting thing. I had not heard of NightHawk before. I hadn't heard of MDSec. This is my bad. I should be on top of these things. I did want to do a little Google search in here for MDSec NightHawk. Hawk. There we go. NightHawk. And just a cool tool. Throwing it out there. Let's take a look at this here. Get it human readable. What is NightHawk? It's the most advanced and evasive command and control framework available on the market. Designed for lawful red team operations, NightHawk empowers red teams by providing the benefits of a custom research and development facility. Built with operational security in mind, NightHawk is a highly malleable implant designed to circumvent and evade the modern security controls often seen in mature, highly monitored environments. Here are some of the features overview. It's a pretty nice piece of software. I'm not going to lie. This app is nice. Whoa! Whozies! NightHawk license costs 7,500 quid or 10,000 USD for transactions. That's probably not accurate at this point, right? Yeah, because it says price is valid of December of 2021. We're a little closer on price when it comes to euros and British pounds. This part with the USD, but 10 grand for 1 year, minimum of 3 licenses. must be acquired. Holy Moses, that's a lot of money. I don't have that money. You know what I need to do? I need to make a video. I'm going to write this down. Make video of C2 frameworks that anybody can use. Perfect. I'm going to do that because that's too much. But there you go, NightHawk. If you've got the scratch, though, obviously it's pretty sweet. Okay, so we've gotten a pretty good idea of how this thing works now, but it's not the only game in town. You'll notice that, our good friends over at MDSec, they had this really cool .NET thing going on. But I have friends at TrustedSec as well, and they did this using a PowerShell script. Super fun. Of course, they're going to go over, the details of what this threat is and how it works, stealing NTLM. But here's how it works. It's looking for a default WAV file. Instead, it contains a path to an SMB share controlled by the attacker because you can use that UNC and force an NTLM authentication from the victim to the attacker. Yep, we know this, but here's that proof of concept. And right here, right at the gate, it looks like it's calling this, and then the recipient is username at exampledomain.com. Oh, here we go. Remote file path. There's the UNC for a WAV file that don't exist because I just want that stinking hash file, right? So give me that. And they do this a couple of ways. We got this send calendar NTLM leak. I think they also have a save calendar. Yeah, save calendar NTLM leak. Doing the same exact thing. Look right there, right? Remote file path. So you can do this with something as simple as PowerShell. Scroll down. I think there's just a couple of functions that they create to fire these things off. Yep. And right in here, we are seeing like reminder override default equals 1. Reminder set equals 1. Reminder play sound equals 1. That means turn those things on. Make that true, right? I think it also is like grabbing. I think it probably rolled past that. Yeah. There we go. New cal.remind sound file equals remote file path. What was that called up here again? Oh, remote file path is so on and so forth, right? So you can do this with PowerShell. You can copy and paste this if you like. Grab that interesting stuff. Have a good time. They got a GitHub repo right here underneath there. So if you want to mess around with that POC, you absolutely can. Whew, this is getting crazy, right? So obviously, it's fairly simple for us to exploit if we need to. That goes to, is it being actively exploited? Well, according to my friends over at deepinstinct.com, I keep calling them my friends. I have actually met people from TrustedSec, and we've got to talk and hang out, and they're super cool folks. But I've never met anybody from MDSec or Deep Instinct, nor have I contacted or spoken with anyone there. But I'm going to call them my friends because they're doing us all a favor by helping us disseminate this great information. So, exploitations in the wild, what do you need to know? This was not too long ago. So I'm in reader mode because their site has this big ugly banner that never goes away. Look for, so this was on March 17th. Going back to reader mode. Give me the reader mode because it's just easier to see. So disclaimer, this blog contains sensitive information, but since this information is publicly available and at least partially public knowledge, we decided not to redact any information as it would cause this post to be irrelevant. Due to the simplicity of the attack and the fact that it does not require user interaction, we're urging everyone to patch their systems immediately. I don't know if you've seen a trend in these articles, but they're letting you know you probably need to get on this if you have not already. But we're talking about active exploitation here. We see that the Computer Emergency Response Team for the Ukraine, their CERT UA, reported a vulnerability to Microsoft. So I guess that's where Microsoft was getting it from. Based on Microsoft Threat Intelligence, a Russian-based threat actor is used it in attacks to target and breach the network of several governments, military, energy, and transportation organizations in Europe between April and December 2022. That sounds like it's actively been exploited. MDSec already demonstrated this, which we just checked out. And security research, Kev the Hermit found a sample of the email attack in the wild. Cool, except not. Deep Instinct Lab threat found this. Okay, so here is the timeline. It looks like it attacked Romania first, around April to May. Then it went to Poland, September, November, Jordan in the end of October, hitting the Ukraine around the beginning of November into the beginning of December, and then smacking Turkey around the end of December 2022. So there's that timeline. Possible attribution. It says that they're attributing this to a Russian-based threat actor because the attacks on Romania, Poland, and Ukraine align with Russian interests. Okay. Just trying to put the puzzle pieces together. We see that we got these attacks on Jordan and Turkey. They might be related to a different threat actor. It says that the attack vector which leads to NTLM harvesting was also observed in 2020 by Iranian threat actors. Additionally, Russia and Iran have signed a cyber cooperation. Well, how about that? They're starting clubs. They're paying dues. They're having meetings. This is not good. That scares me. I don't like that. The Jordanian Foreign Ministry has been targeted in the past by Iranian threat actors, which might indicate the vulnerability was shared with the Iranians. So a little cooperation happened between those Russians and Iranians. Y'all need to calm the hell down. That's all I'm saying. So, well, there's some attribution. Obviously, that's a bit scary. The fact that this has been apparently actively exploited since 2022, that does not bode well for us. So we're going to get into that script here momentarily. But let's go for one more thing. Let's go back to TrustedSec. They have this lovely mitigation area. How can I stop this from happening? Right? So all supported versions of Microsoft Outlook for Windows are affected. Outlook for Android, iOS, macOS, and online services such as web-based Microsoft 365 are not vulnerable because NTLM authentication is not supported. So big brow wipe there. Big sigh of relief. So only our Microsoft Outlook for Windows are affected. That's good to know. We've narrowed it down a little bit farther, right? For organizations using Microsoft Outlook for Windows, a script was released. Yes, that can help see if you've been... To protect against this, it is recommended to do a couple of things. We're going to block an outbound SMB port, 445, as we do, because that will prevent NTLM authentication from being sent anywhere outside that way. So any outbound, right? You get the idea. We got ingress, we got egress filtering. Don't forget that, which apparently, for whatever reason, does get forgotten quite a bit. Yes, we got walls and fences all around coming inward, but nothing going outward. Well, and of course, bad guys are pretty good at crafting ways around that anyway, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing it, right? It also adds users to the protected user security group. Well, that's what you should be doing, which restricts NTLM from being used as an authentication method. Just don't use NTLM by slapping users in this protected user security group, and that will not happen anymore. That's cool. Let's see here. Detections. That's about where. Is that all we need when it comes to that? Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, so there's a couple mitigations. Throw those on the Barbie. Grill them up real good. Put a little Worcestershire, maybe some teriyaki sauce. It's nice, right? Detections, though. Can we detect whether or not this is actively happening? Well, it says that when Outlook performs connection to either SMB or WebDAV hosted services or hosted resources, it first queries the registry for the following keys. So there's a couple of registry keys that we can be monitoring, making events for, and get alerts to those events when they do get popped, right? So here they are: HKLM, system, current control set, services, LAN-man workstation, network provider name, network provider name, and then network provider, same place, provider path. Enabling auditing on both of these network provider registry keys allows audit events 4656 and 4663 to be generated. These events contain both the process initiating the interaction and the object that is accessed. Outlook should not be performing this action under normal operations. So if it's happening, there's something weird you need to take a look at. That's what they should have just said. If this is happening, something weird is happening, and you should look at it. Other processes that query these keys, such as cWindows sys32, search protocol, host.exe, can be easily tuned out. So other things that might access this, you can just tune them out. Screenshots of how to set this up. I'll leave that to you. I don't have an AD set up right now for me to kind of go in here and audit all these things. I guess I could do it locally if I have on my Windows machine, but we don't have that kind of time, right? Let's see here. Outlook accessing network provider registry keys. So nice, lovely screenshots to help walk you through this to make sure this is actually happening. And you can see what that looks like and get yourself detection enabled, right? It says the above two files, file access activities captured using Process Monitor show that the options field contains open reparse points. This will always be true for accessing a remote share using the NT-create file API. As such, identify and create file actions initiated from the Outlook.exe process with open reparse point in the option field helps indicate whether external files were potentially accessed. Oh yeah, and this is one of my other favorite part. Shown below is an internally developed Sigma detection rule. And this is to identify any instances where Outlook.exe process is initiating a connection to WebDAV or SMB. Here's that rule. You can grab that, slap it into your system of choice. So if you have a SIEM that supports Sigma, which it should, hopefully. Sigma is, think along the lines of Yara, right? It's meant to be kind of cross-platform, give everybody the same kind of look and feel so that we can share cyber threat intelligence information across vendors, organizations, so on and so forth. So if you got a system, see if it supports that Sigma rule, grab that, slap it in there, start monitoring and alerting. Any other thing that we need to look out for? Let's see here. The Sigma rule using the MITRE ATT&CK tags for tactics, credential access, and initial access. As a result, when the rule triggers, it will provide context to the event in question. The log source, yep, it's just doing all the stuff, all the stuff that they've already talked about. Cool. Well, there's that. There's detection. We got one more thing on the Barbie, and that is IoCs, which I believe are they here? I believe they are. So here's some screenshots about, just telling you more about this. And this is in the Deep Instinct, I think at the very bottom. Yeah, here are your IoCs. Just a handful of IP addresses that were associated with those in the wild attacks that were being exploited. So you might want to add those to your DNS sinkholes or your IDSs, IPSs, firewalls, so on and so forth, to see if anything's contacting, reporting to, making some sort of, I don't care if it's sending smoke signals. If it's going to this IP, put the kibosh on it, because that should not be happening. There we go, ladies and gents. We're calling it a day. Whew, that was a lot. But it's super important, obviously, right? Because, hey, you don't want to get popped with this thing. And if you do, it's going to be a bad day at the beach, because they can use that to parlay into, grabbing Kerberos tickets and all sorts of crazy stuff, right? Then they've got backdoors in your whole system, and you just, go in a corner and you sob for many hours at a time. Probably take turns with other people on your team, because, you got to go through those things in cycles. You got the grief process to get through, because that's where you're at that point. I almost forgot. We did want to take a look at that script available from Microsoft. Let me find that real quick and I'll bring it up. Where are they hiding that thing? There it is, provided script. Let me get the screen back up. So pulling up the screen. Just a moment. There it is. It's just a GitHub repo. This is where you can go to get this thing. And as you can see, there's the, there we go. There's the link to download the PS1 scripts. And requirements, I think it tells us it's got 2 modes. Yeah, 2 modes for the script, audit and cleanup. 2 modes we both like. Grab that script, run that in your environment. If you have all these things, kind of moving parts in your system, you're going to need that. So go grab that stuff. Again, links, they're in the description down below for you. Thanks for joining me, everyone. It's been an interesting ride today for sure. Tune in next time to see what horrible thing we learn about so we can learn from. By the way, I didn't know because I didn't mention this at the beginning, got a buy me a coffee link down there. If you found value in this episode and you find value in weekly CTI, do me a favor, drop me a bone or two. And I will continue to invest back into this so we can have cooler production, maybe grab some stuff, buy some things that we can use to increase our knowledge of cybersecurity and, be better cybersecurity professionals. That's what this channel is all about. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe.